Hello and welcome to another video on the channel. This is Chris, the MLS card guy. Today we're going over 6 of the players that are not performing well right now. The most underperforming players in the MLS to start this season. I'm going to tell you whether you should be patient or you should panic on these players. We're going to get straight into the video. Here we go. First up, we've got Gustavo Bo. Now, guys that have watched the channel for a while know that I am no fan of Gustavo Bo, so it is not hard for me to trash him here. He is going to be our first panic of the evening. I can't with Gustavo Bo. I don't like him. I don't like his game. I don't think he's that good. He just feeds off of Carlos Gil being absolutely ridiculous. But there's a few other points as to why I think we should panic on Gustavo Bo today. So first of all, he is currently injured. Most recently, what we have is that he'll be back within maybe 2 weeks or so. They said, quote, a couple weeks. That is not giving me confidence given the fact that they play Miami, Charlotte, DC, and Miami again in the next few weeks. If he misses all of these games, he can't play in these games. He can't rack up big scores. The rest of their schedule is brutal. They have like 2 or 3 more good games, like really good matchups throughout the entire rest of the season. I am just not sold on Gustavo Bo even on the field. So first of all, they lost Thiago Buchanan. Thiago Buchanan opened up a ton of space for New England. He was someone that defenses had to pay attention to. When you combine that with Carlos Gil, all of a sudden the defense can't worry about Gustavo Bo. He can just go and do his thing. And Bo is really, really good when you don't pay him any attention. Now, though, no Thiago Buchanan. Defenses can key more on Carlos Gil, and they can still kind of secondarily key on Bo as the second playmaker. Buxa doesn't really play make at all, so I don't think that that's really helpful. And even if Buxa does leave, that hurts Gustavo Bo later on in the season as well. So it could even get worse if Buxa were to end up leaving this New England team. They would essentially just be in shambles. They would be the team from 2 years ago that really wasn't very good. So we have on the field issues. We also have the injury, and we also have the schedule. The last thing with Gustavo Bo is the age. He's 32. He's not getting any younger. And I don't think we're ever really going to see the days of him throwing up 80s and 90s pretty consistently. He'll still be a pretty decent player. He's still a good player for as much as I hate on him. He's just not going to throw up huge numbers. And that's kind of what you're looking for at these prices. It's huge numbers. Someone that you can pair with Carlos Gil and really go after it. I don't think Bo is that guy anymore. Next up, we've got Jack Price from Colorado. Now, Price was a guy that I actually do have, and a guy that we've been a little bit frustrated with, right? His game typically is assist, as you can see here, and a massive all-around score. And you can see his first few games here. He's got that all around. He's got that all around. They're decent games. There's not what we're used to seeing. I mean, you can see up here the all-around floor that he has is generally like 20. Which is absolutely insane for a player like him. I think a lot of this is Kellen Acosta being gone, Price is having to play a little bit deeper, which is hurting his playmaking abilities. But at the same time, I think we need to have a little bit of patience here. I think they will eventually figure this out. And I think these all-around scores will increase a little bit. Plus, if you notice, he doesn't have a decisive yet. He doesn't have an assist. For a guy that had 12 assists last year, I would be shocked if he doesn't have any assists this year. So if you throw an assist onto like this game, it actually ends up looking like a pretty decent score. So I think you actually have to have a little bit of patience here with Jack Price. Next up, we have a little 2-for-1. So I said it was 6 players. I actually have 7 pulled up here. I'm going to combine Johnny Russell and Daniel Saloy because they have kind of the same issue. Russell and Saloy are missing Ilie Sanchez. They're missing Gianluca Busio. They're missing Alan Pulido. They don't have, like, that used to be a deadly offense, a deadly front 6, and now it's really just the 2 of them. It's not that hard for defenses to kind of mark them out. Saloy specifically, you can see Saloy's chart here. Saloy specifically wasn't a big goal scorer before last season. He put up 16 last year, which is completely, I don't think he could put up that many this year. So I think we're due for a little bit of regression anyway. He does have a little bit of an all-around score to be able to save him. But I just can't see this Kansas City offense being nearly as good. And the same thing kind of applies to Russell. Russell put up 16 last year. Again, like you look at this stretch of games here, he was magnificent, scoring and assisting in a whole bunch of games in a row. There's just no way that that's replicable. He's just not going to put up the same types of scores as he did last year. So I think it's time to panic on Saloy and Russell. Before we move on to the last half of our underperforming players, just have to get a quick shout out here to the Patreon guys. They really helped to support me and really helped me to do amazing things like get this new camera and get everything squared away for you guys. If you would like to support the channel, that is the best way to do it on the Patreon. I try to give the Patreon guys a little bit of extra information as well, like my strategy going forward. But mostly it is a chance for you guys to show support for me and all of the work that I try to put into the channel to try to give you guys good content. Now, here we go to the second half. Next up, we have Alex Ring. So Alex Ring got off to a great start to start the season against Cincinnati, then had an assist against Miami, and you thought, wow, he might really go off. Fortunately, he gave away a penalty and has been garbage since then. He really hasn't put up any all-around scores. Is it time to panic on Alex Ring? For me, no. All-around scores typically will regress back to the mean. If you're a decent player, specifically at things like tackles, interceptions, creative passes, things like that, typically those things will stick around unless there's major changes around. Austin hasn't had any real major changes. They've been basically the same team they were for the second half of last year when he was putting up great numbers. I think this is just a slump. I think he will break out of it. You can see the other thing here. He's not really decisive dependent. You can say, I think he had maybe 4 last year, and then these, so like 6 total, and he put up a huge number. So you can see he's really not decisive dependent, like had a couple of assists here, goal and assist there. What a crazy game that was, though. He had a goal and an assist and didn't get a decisive. That's crazy. Had a goal there, but he really doesn't score that much for a player that you think of as elite. All of it is kind of coming from this all-around score, so I think this will bounce back a little bit here. Certainly more than the 4s and 3s that he's been putting up recently. Next up, we have one of the big additions from the offseason for NYCFC, going out and getting Thiago Martinez from Yokohama Marinos. Obviously, they're a sister club. Thiago came in very, very hyped. You can see the great scores that he had in Japan. But since he's come to the US, it has been nothing but miserable. Started off on the bench. He has won a starting spot, which is helpful. And you can see these decisive downs, which are not really repeatable either. So you're probably not going to get too many of these 20 games. But the real thing that made him great was, look at this, 32, 34, 39, 49, 43, 50. 49. You just don't see MLS defenders putting up that kind of all around. It's a different league. It's a different style of play. It's just not possible to do in the MLS. You can see he didn't really have any decisive actions when he was over in Japan. It all came from the all around, and he just doesn't have that kind of potential here. Could he be a really good ETH grinder, like a mid-50s type guy? Possibly, but that's not really what you were expecting when you came over here. So to a certain degree, it's time to panic. But it's also good that he has won a starting role in New York. And lastly, we're going to go with Damir Krylak, a guy who had a really nice season last year, was kind of very boomer bust for people, could put up 94, 92, 87, some really big scores, and just has not gotten off the schneid so far yet. He had a 46 in the first game, and then got hurt, hasn't played, had a few sub-ins here lately. And I think with Krylak, it's a little bit of patience because you do have to let him get healthy and see where he is. It could be time to panic on Damir Krylak. Obviously, Albert Risnak is gone, which makes a big difference on that team. There may not be anybody to provide that creative spark to get Krylak in position to score, but we don't know that yet. RSL has played very, very well, even without Damir Krylak. Now you add Damir Krylak back into that mix, and potentially this is still a pretty decent team. We'll have to see how things play out. I've never really been a big believer in RSL's talent, but clearly they've got something going on with the results that they've been able to pull out this year. Beating Nashville, beating New England, beating Seattle Sounders in back-to-back games without Damir Krylak is very impressive. That's going to be it for the video today. I appreciate you guys watching. Until the next time, Vamos United.